Hello and welcome to the show. Can the Vibranium suit worn by Black Panther in Marvel movies be created in real life? Well, it seems possible, but certain scientific conditions would need to be met. Let me explain. Shape-shifting material. The first requirement is the ability to adapt to the wearer's body shape. As you know, Black Panther's suit was worn by three people: King T'Challa, his sister Shuri, and Killmonger. Now, imagine if the suit didn't have the ability to mold itself to each person's body shape. It would have been loose and impractical. So obviously we need a material that can adapt to different body shapes automatically. Kinetic energy absorption. The second feature is the ability to absorb kinetic energy, specifically vibrational kinetic energy. In the movies, if someone attacks the suit, it absorbs the energy silently, stores it, and then releases it in an impactful way. This is a crucial element of the suit. Adamantium claws. Then come the adamantium claws. In the movies, Marvel shows adamantium as a material that can cut through almost anything except vibranium. So we'd also need to find a material that can accomplish that. Advanced AI. Next is chemo AI, which is integrated into the suit. This is not too difficult to achieve with current technology. The helmet features night vision, and then there's the manifestation ability, where the suit instantly appears on the body just by thought. If we somehow manage to bring all these features together, we could make our own version of the suit. Now you're probably wondering, is this even possible? Materials and technologies that seemed impossible 10 years ago are now a reality. Let's break it down. I've divided this video into two sections. The first covers the history of these technologies as shown in Marvel movies and comics. After understanding that, it'll be easier to connect the dots. The second part explains the logical and scientific workings behind the suit, and how today's materials can perform similar tasks to vibranium and adamantium from the Marvel Universe. History of vibranium. Let's start with why vibranium is so special. First, it's a space metal, meaning it came from space and landed in Wakanda, where the people claimed it. The piece of vibranium that landed on Wakandan soil had the unique ability to absorb vibrations, specifically vibrational kinetic energy. That's huge. You can see the power of this ability when Thor struck Captain America's shield with his hammer. The shield absorbed the energy and redirected it, clearing an entire forest. Now, you might be surprised to know that Captain America's shield wasn't made by Tony Stark's father. So, who made it? The shield was actually created by the same person who purified the adamantium that was used for Wolverine's claws, Myron McClane. How did he get his hands on vibranium and adamantium? While researching in the African jungles during World War II, he found a stone that was vibranium. Upon discovering its properties, he tried to replicate the metal in his lab to create armor for American tanks. However, during one experiment, a new material was accidentally created by mixing vibranium with other metals, and this led to the creation of Captain America's shield. McClane tried to recreate the mixture, but was unsuccessful. History of adamantium. Now let's talk about adamantium. It also came from space and landed in Africa, where it was found by local villagers. Major William Stryker took it from them, knowing that only Myron McClane, the creator of Captain America's shield, could purify it. Stryker wanted to use adamantium for his Weapon X program. What's the Weapon X program? It's the same American military program that gave us Captain America, also known as Weapon 1. The X in Weapon X stands for 10 in Roman numerals. The US started this program because they learned Nazi Germany was working on creating super soldiers. So, to stay competitive, the US launched the Weapon 1 program, with Weapon X being the 10th iteration. After purifying the adamantium, they injected it into Wolverine's skeleton because he was a mutant with the ability to heal quickly, making him the perfect candidate. That was a brief history of vibranium, adamantium, Captain America's shield, the Weapon X program, and Wolverine. Scientific explanation. Now let's get to the main point. Vibranium has the ability to adapt to body shape. Do we have such a material in real life? Actually, we have something even better. In September 2022, a research paper was published in Science Direct mentioning smart materials or smart fabrics that can automatically adjust their shape, color, and temperature to match the body. But that's not all. Check out this other example of a dress that can change color. It was created by Adobe, the same company that makes software for almost everything. Isn't that amazing? In addition, there are self-healing fabrics that can repair themselves if torn, and pressure-sensitive fabrics that monitor the body's vitals, like heart rate and blood pressure. There are even materials that can bend light, making you almost invisible. So creating a shape-shifting suit like Black Panther's Vibranium suit is definitely within reach. Kinetic energy absorption. Now let's move on to the second property, the ability to absorb vibrational kinetic energy. This is a bit tricky. Remember when T'Challa was first shown the suit and was asked to kick it? The suit absorbed all the kinetic energy, storing it for later use. I have no issue with this from a scientific perspective, and I'll explain why. But before that, let me point out something. When T'Challa was asked to kick the suit again, it released the stored energy, causing him to fly sideways. This energy transfer principle was used multiple times in the movies, like when Black Panther redirected energy to leap over a car or create a massive shockwave by releasing the absorbed energy through his hands. But here's the problem. Kinetic energy doesn't exist without momentum. So, if the suit is absorbing kinetic energy, where did the momentum go? According to Newton's laws, momentum must be conserved, so it should have been transferred somewhere. The movie seems to have conveniently ignored that rule. You might ask, what if the momentum was transferred on a subatomic level inside the vibranium? But the creators themselves say that vibranium stores only vibrational kinetic energy. Since both energy and momentum are conserved, we can't have one without the other. But let's assume for a moment that Marvel knows more than we do, even more than Newton himself. Even if we forgive the movie for ignoring momentum, I can still justify the energy-absorbing feature from a scientific perspective. Bro, I'm not messing with momentum either. So let's dive into what kind of material can actually absorb energy. That's piezoelectric materials. Let me explain. In physics, anything that has a repeating atomic or molecular structure is called a lattice. This is true for most materials, but piezoelectric materials are different. They don't have symmetrical structures, but they're still electrically neutral. This lack of symmetry gives them unique properties. Now, if you apply force and try to change the shape of these piezoelectric materials, it creates a charge imbalance. And if millions or billions of atoms experience this force, their overall charge can generate a substantial voltage. Listen closely. When a bullet hit Black Panther's suit, it deformed the suit. And as a result, the suit converted the impact into electrical energy. Since electrical energy can travel easily through metals, and the suit is made of metal, if this energy is directed to a single point using smart structures, it can create a force. You're probably wondering, how does that work? Well, when force generates electricity, that electricity can also generate force. So this atomic structure releases all the electrical energy from the suit, causing the atoms to rearrange again and create a force that's then thrown out of the suit. This is how piezoelectric materials function. And everything here aligns perfectly with that. So how was this discovered? Let's go back to 1980. French physicists Pierre and Jacques Curie were playing around with chemicals in their lab, and they had a quartz crystal lying around. When they applied mechanical stress to it, it generated an electric charge, which gave them a shock. That's when they had their light bulb moment. They thought, why not create something that lets people experience this shock? And so they rigged something up. Skipping that story, the real discovery happened in 1980, and by 1981, the Curie brothers realized that the effect also worked in reverse. Meaning, if an electric field was applied around the crystal, its mechanical properties would change, causing it to deform. As they were still learning about this, in 1910, German physicist Waldemar Voigt published a paper called Lehrbuch der Kristallphysik or something like that. In that paper, he detailed all the properties of these crystals, explaining how they could be used. Fast forward to World War I, around 1914. Whenever a technology is developed, it's inevitably used in warfare. So, using piezoelectric crystals, the world's first ultrasonic submarine detector was created, using quartz crystals, of course. We won't dive too deep into the details of how it worked. That'd be a long story. After the war, more research was done, and piezoelectric materials started being used in things like microphones, accelerometers, and phonographs. Now let's jump to World War II. Researchers from 3 countries, the US, Japan, and the Soviet Union, developed a synthetic material called ferroelectrics. This material was special because it could outperform any naturally occurring piezoelectric materials. So that's the history. What I mentioned earlier is called the reverse piezoelectric effect, and it's not some futuristic science fiction. We've been using it for a long time. Your speakers, microphones, sensors, and medical devices all rely on the reverse piezoelectric effect. Let me give you an example. When you press the top of a lighter, a hammer strikes the piezoelectric crystal, producing a spark of 3,000 volts, which can ignite flammable gas. You could even use this technology to make a gun. There are even devices like stethoscopes that use piezoelectric crystals. So, this technology is ancient. We've been using it for a long time. Today, scientists are researching how to harvest energy using the reverse piezoelectric effect. Imagine roads made from materials that generate electricity as you walk on them, which could then be used to power streetlights at night. That's because when you walk, the structure of the road deforms, and that deformation generates electrical energy. This is the magic of piezoelectric materials. So, we've got two features: shape-shifting and absorbing vibrations, or converting them into force. Now let's talk about claws. Black Panther's claws are made from adamantium, a metal that can cut through anything except vibranium. But how do we know vibranium can't be cut by it? We saw a clear example of this in Civil War, when Black Panther fought Captain America. In that fight, Black Panther scratched Cap's shield with his claws, but the shield didn't break because it's made of vibranium. But what might surprise you is that there's something that can cut through vibranium: Atlantean vibranium. Remember the last fight scene in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever? Shuri's suit gets pierced by a spear made from Atlantean vibranium. That shows that the two types of vibranium can cut each other. So now we need a super strong material, and we have one: graphene. Graphene is the strongest material ever tested, with a tensile strength of 130 gigapascals. It's thin, lightweight, conducts electricity, is incredibly strong, can stretch, change shape, and can easily mix with other materials. It's basically an all-in-one material. Now you might be wondering, what's the point of all this? Sure, we've isolated a single layer of carbon and created graphene. But what problem does it solve? Well, one of the biggest advantages is that graphene can maintain its superconductivity even at high temperatures, which makes it special. But where did it come from? Let's explore its history. In 1947, theorist Philip R. Wallace imagined a hypothetical material. What if we could create a thin layer of graphite? Could it be useful? He toyed with the idea. Then in 1962, Hans Peter Bohm and his colleagues gave this material a name: graphene. In 1970, another researcher, von Bohm, confirmed the existence of a monolayer of carbon. By 1986, Bohm and his team published a paper discussing the properties of graphene. Finally, in 2004, Andrei Geim and Konstantin Novoselov at Manchester University isolated a single layer of carbon, naming the process the Scotch tape method. Essentially, they used tape to peel layers off graphite, much like we peel layers off a roll of tape. In 2005, they discovered that graphene exhibited the anomalous quantum Hall effect, confirming the presence of massless Dirac fermions. A huge breakthrough. You might find these terms confusing, but don't worry. They're not directly relevant to this video. In 2010, Geim and Novoselov won the Nobel Prize in Physics for their discovery, which shows how groundbreaking it was. Since then, every scientist has jumped onto the graphene bandwagon. By 2020, a technique called chemical vapor deposition, CVD, was developed, allowing us to produce high-quality graphene. It's still in the development phase, though. Now, if we can successfully peel off a layer of graphite as thin as a single carbon atom, we can call it graphene. The amazing thing is that it's a superconductor, meaning electric charges can move through it at maximum speed. If we can somehow combine this material with Black Panther's suit or his claws, the possibilities are endless. Now let's talk about chemo AI, but we won't dwell on it because everyone's using AI these days. They had their AI technology called chemo AI, but we'll skip that for now. The next feature is Black Panther's night vision. This technology already exists. If you remember, in the first Black Panther movie, there's a scene where T'Challa attacks in the dark, but he can see clearly, even in complete darkness, where everyone is and what weapons they're holding. Next up is manifestation, which is showcased when Shuri asks T'Challa to command the suit in the lab. As soon as he thinks about the suit, it appears. The suit comes out of the necklace he's wearing, and we see this manifestation in 3 scenes. One is the Killmonger fight, where the suit suddenly appears, and the other is this scene where T'Challa jumps into the air and his suit appears. Now let's discuss manifestation. The Internet of Things (IoT) is already being developed, and the idea is that in the future, with a chip implanted in the brain, we'll be able to control anything connected to the Internet with our minds. So, the technology is already here and being refined. Already have the materials to create an alloy with properties similar to vibranium. So the possibility of creating a suit like Black Panther's is very real. But making the suit isn't enough. It's important to consider who's wearing it. In the movie, the person wearing the suit had physical strength. If a regular person puts it on, even science can't help them. Speaking of which, I have to call out Marvel on one thing. Newton's laws apply throughout the universe, except in the quantum world. So when that massive vibranium mountain crashed into Earth, I'm wondering how it transferred its momentum. Since Earth is floating in space, shouldn't its orbit or rotation speed have been affected? And how did the vibranium even reach Earth without burning up in? In the end, we can say that yes, it is possible to create suit. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe.